After successfully breaking through from the early stage to the middle stage of the Divine Emperor realm, Luo Feng immediately returned to the Chu capital. Luo Feng visited Emperor Chu in the land of origin, where the emperor was peacefully studying the great Tao of the ultimate realm after being exempted from many imperial duties by the primogenitor. Emperor Chu was delighted by Luo Feng's unexpected visit. Knowing that Luo Feng and the other top experts rarely returned because they spent most of their time cultivating outside the source world, Luo Feng explained that he had gathered numerous resources during his journey through the Nine Rivers sacred realm and had specially prepared cultivation treasures for his master. He immediately presented an array of carefully arranged treasures whose natural aura alone caused Emperor Chu's mind to become dizzy while simultaneously stimulating countless inspirations. Luo Feng explained that he had selected 92 different auxiliary treasures according to Emperor Chu's life form level so that his master could personally test each one and determine which suited him best. He also transmitted detailed methods for using every treasure. Although Emperor Chu ruled the Flame-Wind ancient country, he had previously heard of only 3 of these 92 treasures because the others were far too expensive to obtain. Knowing that Emperor Chu cultivated the path of destruction, Luo Feng also purchased more than 100 inheritances related to that path, all below the Divine Emperor level because they were inexpensive within the Nine Rivers sacred realm. He encouraged Emperor Chu to study them as references. Finally, Luo Feng presented a book that he had personally written containing his own understanding of the path of destruction. Although its contents remained within the ultimate realm of the godly king, Luo Feng's experiences observing countless fusions of life and destruction beyond the braided cage had greatly deepened his understanding, making the book exceptionally valuable. Luo Feng had even planned to prepare another version extending to the early Divine Emperor level for Morosa in hopes that it might one day help him achieve an unlikely breakthrough. Emperor Chu asked how many primordial crystals Luo Feng had spent obtaining these gifts. Luo Feng casually answered that it was not much, concealing that the total cost had been about 1 million primordial crystals. Emperor Chu carefully examined the treasures and Luo Feng's personally written book. He realized that treasures he had only heard rumors about now stood before him in abundance. While Luo Feng's book must have required enormous effort to complete. Deeply moved, Emperor Chu reminded Luo Feng that he had spent only a little more than 1,000 epochs outside the source world and should devote all his energy to strengthening himself rather than worrying about his master. He explained that although he had never personally entered the world beyond the source world, he understood from countless records that it was unimaginably dangerous, where survival depended entirely upon one's own strength while competing against experts from countless realms. Emperor Chu insisted that Luo Feng's cultivation mattered far more than caring for him and even urged him to exchange all the treasures back for primordial crystals. Luo Feng reassured his master that there was no need. He explained that his activities had been limited to the comparatively safer Nine Rivers sacred realm rather than the terrifying Dark Sacred Realm. Within the Nine Rivers sacred realm, he claimed he already belonged to the highest tier of cultivators, with only a handful stronger than himself. Emperor Chu immediately rejected the statement, reminding Luo Feng that according to the imperial clan's records, even the Flame-Wind primogenitor had never dared claim to stand among the strongest experts there, meaning countless beings remained superior even to the primogenitor. Luo Feng admitted that many cultivators within the Nine Rivers sacred realm were stronger than the 2 ancestors of the 2 nations, but calmly added that very few were stronger than him. Shocked, Emperor Chu stared at Luo Feng and directly asked whether he had already surpassed the 2 ancestors. Luo Feng answered without hesitation that he was not merely stronger but stronger by an entire level because he had recently broken through. He quietly added that Emperor Chu was the first person besides himself to learn about this breakthrough. Emperor Chu was overwhelmed. The 2 ancestors had cultivated through countless reincarnation eras of the land of origin and had repeatedly ventured into the dark sacred realm. Yet Luo Feng had entered the Nine Rivers sacred realm for only a little more than 1,000 epochs before surpassing them by a complete level. Unable to hide his amazement, Emperor Chu finally accepted the gifts. At the same time, he reminded Luo Feng that the greater his talent became, the more cautious and steady he needed to remain. Luo Feng promised he understood. After accepting the treasures, Emperor Chu eagerly invited Luo Feng to sit down. Since Emperor Cheng never revealed much about the Nine Rivers sacred realm, Emperor Chu requested a detailed explanation. Luo Feng poured wine for both of them and spent a long time describing the sacred realm and everything he had experienced there before finally departing. After Luo Feng left, Emperor Chu remained alone in the courtyard reflecting upon everything that had happened. When he had first accepted Luo Feng as his disciple, he had simply hoped Luo Feng's talent would eventually allow them to explore the world beyond the source world together. He had never imagined that Luo Feng would one day surpass the two ancestors themselves. Remembering how Emperor Yan, Emperor Shi, and Emperor Wu had suffered disastrous consequences merely for slightly obstructing Luo Feng's path. With Emperor Shi and Emperor Wu ultimately killed by the flame-wind primogenitor, Emperor Chu realized that the primogenitor had recognized Luo Feng's extraordinary future much earlier than he had. He silently wondered how far his remarkable disciple would ultimately go. Luo Feng later visited Mountain Sitting Guest and presented another carefully prepared collection of cultivation resources. Because Mountain Sitting Guest's physical body was much weaker than Emperor Chu's, Luo Feng limited the gifts to treasures worth only about 10,000 primordial crystals. He also presented numerous inheritances most suitable for the world lineage and dozens of artifact refining scriptures collected from the Nine Rivers sacred realm, where such scriptures below the Divine Emperor level could be purchased very cheaply because millions of Ultimate Realm cultivators freely sold them. Unlike Emperor Chu, Luo Feng's gratitude toward Mountain Sitting Guest was much deeper. Without Mountain Sitting Guest there would have been no Earth-human clan, and Luo Feng would never have inherited treasures such as the Star Tower, the 9-volume manual, and the Lai Yuan technique. Mountain Sitting Guest happily accepted the gifts but honestly admitted that his natural talent and comprehension were limited. He had not even reached the second realm of the Godly King in understanding the Great Tao. So he believed Luo Feng should not waste excessive effort supporting him. After achieving revenge for everything he had lost, he had become satisfied with his peaceful existence and no longer possessed strong ambitions for cultivation. Luo Feng gently encouraged him to regard the inheritances as enjoyable reading if nothing else. Smiling, Mountain Sitting Guest agreed and said they might perhaps help him eventually reach the second realm of the Godly King. Luo Feng did not remain long because he sensed that his master had little desire for extended conversation. After Luo Feng departed, Mountain Sitting Guest quietly summoned a treasured mirror containing countless preserved memories. Within it appeared the image of his senior sister teaching a young child. Gazing at those memories, he reflected that although weaker beings could sometimes be revived through slight reversals of time within the primordial cosmos, the temporal laws of the land of origin were far too absolute, making resurrection completely impossible. Looking at his senior sister's image, he admitted that he wished for nothing more than to return to the past for even a brief moment. Even if he died immediately afterward, he would have no regrets. The mirror contained precious memories of his senior sister, fellow disciples, brothers, and friends, and he often spent his days quietly reliving those moments. Luo Feng understood that although both of his masters appreciated the gifts, Mountain Sitting Guest remained emotionally detached from material possessions because the deepest sorrow in his heart could never be healed. Luo Feng recognized that this regret lay beyond even his own ability to resolve. After completing his visits, Luo Feng returned to his peaceful routine in Yulan City. The insect nest master no longer caused him trouble, while the Dan Tower's business continued flourishing. Luo Feng also had no intention of joining further hunting expeditions for the time being. Instead, he devoted himself entirely to researching numerous primordial bloodlines. By continuously comparing his own state of inner completion with the perfect structures contained within those bloodlines, he gained fresh insights into cultivation. Time quietly flowed onward in this peaceful manner. And before he realized it, another 1,000 epochs had passed. Luo Feng temporarily stopped cultivating after spending about 1,500 epochs studying primordial bloodlines. He had already thoroughly researched all 323 early-stage Divine Emperor primordial bloodlines and had recently begun studying the middle-stage Divine Emperor bloodlines, successfully analyzing 34 varieties. Every middle-stage bloodline greatly expanded his understanding, but the continuous use of cultivation treasures had exhausted his soul, so he decided to rest. Through studying these bloodlines, he felt himself drawing closer to escaping the braided cage and achieving the perfect, seamless fusion of primordial bloodlines. Although he sensed that he could already advance the life and death Tao to the late-stage Divine Emperor level, he deliberately chose not to rush. believing that a deeper foundation would strengthen his future path. Once he reached that level, he would surpass even the 3 hall masters in status within the dark sacred realm. Reflecting on his cultivation, Luo Feng realized that while many cultivators struggled at bottlenecks, he could naturally perceive the core essence of the great Tao. Though he also believed that in the eyes of Senior Yuan, he himself might still seem ordinary. Leaving his cave mansion during a light rain, Luo Feng wandered through Yulan City and noticed an ultimate realm godly king drinking alone beside a lake while laughing bitterly. After offering him fine wine, Luo Feng learned that the old cultivator had spent tens of thousands of epochs performing odd jobs while paying residence and cave mansion fees. Finally saving enough wealth to buy breakthrough elixirs, only to have them stolen before returning home. The elder lamented how difficult it was to earn primordial crystals, survive, and cultivate, but still believed that Yulan City offered hope for advancement. After the elder left, he discovered that Luo Feng had secretly hidden 1 primordial crystal inside the wine jug, worth 10,000 primordial crystals. Realizing Luo Feng was an extraordinary senior, the grateful elder quietly returned to his cave mansion without attracting attention. As Luo Feng continued walking through Yulan City, he observed that countless bottom-tier cultivators struggled to survive. Most lacked stable employment because many factions preferred hiring temporary workers instead of maintaining permanent staff over long periods. These weak cultivators were frequently robbed since they could not afford treasures capable of protecting themselves, such as illusion defenses. Even Divine Emperor early-stage enlightened cultivators had to risk their lives hunting outside the city, while many Divine Emperor middle-stage enlightened experts also depended on dangerous hunting missions unless they secured important positions within powerful organizations. Luo Feng reflected that Emperor Qing had only obtained his favorable position in the Dan Tower because of his own recommendation. More than 99% of Yulan City's cultivators lived difficult lives. Yet they all remained there because they pursued greater progress on the path of cultivation. Eventually, Luo Feng arrived outside the enormous cave mansion of the insect nest master. Although he had not advanced the life and death Tao to the late-stage Divine Emperor, his mastery of the life and destruction Taos, combined with his extensive research into primordial bloodlines, had given him an exceptionally solid foundation and allowed him to create many powerful secret techniques. As a result, he no longer regarded the 3 hall masters or the insect nest master as significant threats. Luo Feng understood that throughout the infinite primordial space, countless worlds would always produce individuals who relied on theft and plunder for resources. Even if predatory organizations such as the insect nest were destroyed, others would inevitably emerge because greed was unavoidable. Standing openly outside the insect nest master's cave mansion, Luo Feng deliberately stared at her true body. The insect nest master noticed him but restrained herself, knowing she still lacked a suitable mental secret treasure to confront him. Luo Feng transmitted his voice directly, mocking her for pretending not to notice him. When she accused him of going too far, Luo Feng reminded her that she had previously attacked him inside the Dan Tower, while he was merely standing outside her cave mansion and speaking. Unable to respond, the insect nest master remained silent. Luo Feng mocked her lack of courage before calmly leaving, while the insect nest master concluded that Luo Feng must possess powerful backing if he dared provoke her so openly. Elsewhere in a modest cave mansion on the outskirts of Yulan City, 2 weak cultivators secretly communicated. One informed the other that the king would soon enter Yulan City and ordered all preparations to begin. Only the leaders were allowed to know about the king's arrival, while lower-ranking members would believe they were merely participating in another ordinary infiltration and assassination mission. The elderly cultivator eagerly anticipated the operation, believing they had waited a long time for the opportunity to tear apart Yulan City. He expected that the billions of cultivators living there would become prey, allowing them to devour enough cultivators to regain their freedom. The thin cultivator instructed him to remain patient, promising that once the king entered the city, he would personally contact all the leaders. Luo Feng had spent a long time cultivating in Yulan City, although he had heard about low-level primordial lifeforms infiltrating the city to carry out assassinations. He had never encountered such incidents himself. His entire focus remained on cultivation, and he had not even applied for the elder examination because he believed becoming an elder would distract him from his cultivation. One day, Numerous cultivators from the insect nest descended outside the Dan Tower main building and completely blocked its entrance. Customers immediately fled, realizing that a confrontation between the insect nest and the Dan Tower might be about to occur. The disturbance alarmed the Dan Tower staff, who quickly reported the situation to Chongqing building owner and Luo Feng. Chongqing believed the insect nest would not openly violate Yulan City's regulations and assumed they had come to negotiate. Luo Feng agreed to observe their intentions, wondering if the insect nest had finally exhausted its patience after remaining silent for so long. Inside the Dan Tower, Elder Sa Luo, one of the 7 strongest figures of the insect nest and an elder-level expert, entered with a group of subordinates. His overwhelming aura intimidated everyone present until Chongqing building owner activated the tower's formation to suppress the pressure. Elder Sa Luo declared that he had not come for Chongqing but demanded that the Dan Tower hand over high-level alchemist Jiyu Qingyuan. Chongqing ordered Jiyu Qingyuan to appear while asking why the alchemist had offended the insect nest. Elder Sa Luo refused to explain immediately. Soon, Jiyu Qingyuan arrived. Elder Sa Luo accused him of assassinating 2 mid-stage Divine Emperor enlightened members of the insect nest inside Yulan City, claiming that anyone who committed murder within the city deserved death according to its laws. Jiyu Qingyuan calmly asked whether Elder Sa Luo possessed any evidence. Elder Sa Luo admitted he had no direct proof but stated that the insect nest had paid a tremendous price to investigate past time-space traces and causality, leading them to conclude that Jiyu Qingyuan had poisoned the 2 cultivators. Jiyu Qingyuan questioned why he would poison them without reason. Elder Sa Luo explained that Jiyu Qingyuan's only disciple had been killed during a robbery, and Jiyu Qingyuan believed the 2 deceased insect nest cultivators were responsible. Jiyu Qingyuan acknowledged that his disciple had indeed been ambushed and killed after purchasing a treasure. Before dying, his disciple had transmitted a final message identifying the 2 attackers as members of the insect nest. Elder Sa Luo dismissed the claim, arguing that the killers could have been disguised and that proper evidence was required to determine responsibility in Yulan City. Jiyu Qingyuan replied that he was merely an ordinary alchemist without the ability to poison 2 mid-stage Divine Emperor enlightened experts. He also reminded Elder Sa Luo that the latter himself had emphasized the necessity of conclusive evidence. Although Elder Sa Luo knew Jiyu Qingyuan was the true killer, he could not prove it. Unable to produce decisive evidence, Elder Sa Luo declared that Jiyu Qingyuan was merely a suspect and ordered him to accompany the insect nest for investigation. The Dan Tower alchemists immediately protested, insisting there was no justification for taking him away without proof. Chongqing building owner also questioned Elder Sa Luo's authority. Elder Sa Luo responded that he possessed circumstantial evidence, including records showing Jiyu Qingyuan had been near the victims before their deaths and traces of causality connecting him to the incident. He also displayed an official decree issued by Elder Deyu authorizing the investigation. According to city regulations, an elder with reasonable suspicion and official authorization had the right to detain a suspect. The Dan Tower alchemists remained furious, believing that if Jiyu Qingyuan were taken away, his fate would effectively be sealed regardless of his innocence. Elder Sa Luo warned them not to interfere and ordered his subordinates to record the names of every alchemist who spoke against him. The alchemists immediately became uneasy. Chongqing building owner could only promise Jiyu Qingyuan that he would personally meet Elder Deyu to ensure fair treatment. Jiyu Qingyuan thanked him calmly, having already prepared himself for the worst and even obtained a substitute death treasure beforehand. At that moment, Luo Feng appeared. His arrival instantly changed the atmosphere. Elder Sa Luo, who had little regard for Chongqing, became noticeably cautious because Luo Feng's reputation had soared after defeating Elder Tian He. Luo Feng released an overwhelming aura that sent all of Elder Sa Luo's subordinates flying out of the Dan Tower, while only Elder Sa Luo himself remained standing through the protection of his powerful body. Luo Feng coldly questioned how the insect nest dared behave arrogantly within his territory. Elder Sa Luo attempted to justify his actions by citing the evidence and Elder Deyu's decree. Luo Feng interrupted him, mocking the insect nest and asking whether they truly understood their own infamous reputation. Elder Sa Luo became furious, accusing Luo Feng of going too far. Luo Feng publicly declared that the Dan Tower strictly followed the laws of Yulan City and that without conclusive evidence, nobody had the authority to take away one of its cultivators, not Elder Sa Luo and not even the insect nest master himself. Elder Sa Luo questioned whether Luo Feng dared disrespect the insect nest master, a supreme expert comparable to the three hall masters. Luo Feng answered without hesitation that he did not consider the insect nest master worthy of his respect. He instructed Elder Sa Luo to deliver his exact words and declared that he would wait for the insect nest master to come personally whenever he wished. Chongqing building owner was stunned by Luo Feng's boldness because he had always maintained friendly relations with every major faction in Yulan City and would never have spoken so openly. Everyone present, including Ji Qingyuan, was shocked that Luo Feng openly humiliated the insect nest master. Elder Sa Luo sneered and decided to leave, promising to report Luo Feng's words exactly. However, before he could escape, Luo Feng activated the life and death array surrounding the Dan Tower. The formation trapped Elder Sa Luo inside, preventing him from leaving or breaking the array. He also sensed his life force continuously weakening and realized he could no longer recover it, causing his expression to change from anger to horror. Elder Sa Luo demanded to know whether Luo Feng intended to attack him inside the city. Luo Feng calmly replied that Elder Sa Luo had come to the Dan Tower acting arrogantly and could not simply leave without consequence. He demanded that Elder Sa Luo pay 1 billion primordial crystals as compensation or remain imprisoned within the Dan Tower for the time being. Everyone present was left speechless. Elder Sa Luo found himself caught between panic and fury as he immediately called upon the insect nest master for assistance. The insect nest master received a message from Elder Sa Luo, who reported that Luo Feng had trapped him inside the Dan Tower with a formation and demanded 1 billion primordial crystals as compensation before allowing him to leave. After reviewing the full report, she learned that Sa Luo had gone to the Dan Tower to capture the alchemist Ji Qingyuan after Ji Qingyuan poisoned and killed 2 of his subordinates. Sa Luo complained that Luo Feng had shown no respect for the insect nest and that the formation completely suppressed him while continuously draining his vitality. The insect nest master asked whether he could escape the formation by force, and Sa Luo admitted he could not. She regarded Luo Feng as a powerful opponent and said that enduring humiliation was sometimes necessary when facing a strong enemy. She first suggested abandoning the trapped avatar, but Sa Luo explained that this avatar carried a complete set of secret treasures worth more than 1 billion primordial crystals, making it impossible to discard. She therefore ordered him to pay the compensation instead. Although Sa Luo repeatedly argued that this would disgrace the insect nest, she dismissed his concerns and ended the communication. Alone, she reasoned that Luo Feng was deliberately provoking her into acting, since he already understood her spiritual abilities and had previously fought her in a battle of spiritual will. She suspected he possessed new methods or stronger spiritual techniques. She decided to remain patient and wait until Luo Feng eventually revealed his true strength. The operation of the formation around the Dan Tower became widely known throughout Yulan City, astonishing everyone. A faction devoted to alchemy had openly trapped one of the elders of the powerful insect nest, one of the 3 major looting factions. Chongqing building owner felt extremely uneasy because he lacked the strength to oppose the insect nest. But Luo Feng calmly assured him that he would handle everything. After remaining silent for a while, Elder Sa Luo finally softened his attitude and asked Luo Feng to release him. Luo Feng repeated that only 1 billion primordial crystals in compensation would secure his freedom. Sa Luo tried to argue that his mission had targeted Ji Qingyuan rather than Luo Feng, hoping the compensation would be waived. Luo Feng replied that if Sa Luo had targeted him personally, 1 billion primordial crystals would not have been enough. Unable to do anything else, Sa Luo summoned another avatar carrying 1 billion primordial crystals and paid the compensation. Luo Feng accepted the payment and released him. Before leaving, Sa Luo acknowledged Luo Feng's strength and departed under the gaze of numerous witnesses. The Dan Tower members were shocked that an elder had actually paid compensation instead of sacrificing his avatar. They did not realize that the insect nest master herself had decided to tolerate the humiliation, leading Sa Luo to suppress his anger rather than escalate the conflict. Ji Qingyuan sincerely thanked Luo Feng for saving his life. Knowing that without Luo Feng's protection he would almost certainly have been captured or hunted down through time and causality by the insect nest. Luo Feng assured him that Sa Luo would no longer target him and that he could safely remain in the Dan Tower. Afterward, Chongqing building owner privately asked Luo Feng why the insect nest master had chosen to back down despite such public humiliation. Luo Feng speculated that she might have suffered serious injuries during their previous confrontation, making her unwilling to fight again. As Luo Feng's cultivation continued to improve, the power of the Lai Yuan technique also became increasingly terrifying. Although his greatest strength remained the combination of the undying heart and palm world in close combat, he was unconcerned even by the three hallmasters, much less the insect nest master. Luo Feng then returned to his residence and resumed cultivation. His life and death Dao was only one step away from reaching the late-stage Divine Emperor. Once he achieved that breakthrough, he planned to explore the dark sacred realm while leaving an avatar in Yulan City to repay Yuan Shang Palace Master's kindness. Inside the Shadow Tower, countless Divine Emperor creatures that collectively formed the Shadow Tower Master were surprised that the Insect Nest Master had tolerated Luo Feng's actions. They believed such behavior was completely unlike her and concluded that she must have had a compelling reason to fear him. Elder Xingyi, an esteemed direct disciple of a peerless being from the dark sacred realm, also found the situation remarkable. He reflected that Luo Feng had only recently arrived in Yulan City, had originally hunted only early-stage Divine Emperor primordial life alongside Emperor Cheng, yet had already become someone capable of making the Insect Nest Master exercise caution. Meanwhile, Wei Yong Palace Master reviewed the latest intelligence about Luo Feng. Although the Master of Deceit Workshop had previously suggested recruiting him, Wei Yong Palace Master had already sensed that Luo Feng represented a significant threat. Curious about the Insect Nest Master's restraint, he questioned her directly. She answered that Luo Feng excelled in spiritual will secret techniques and had previously fought her in spiritual combat, making her unwilling to provoke him. She added that with a sufficiently powerful treasure protecting her spiritual will, she would not hesitate to teach Luo Feng a lesson. After hearing this explanation, Wei Yong Palace Master ended the discussion. Later, when an underling asked how Luo Feng should be ranked in the latest Divine Emperor rankings, Wei Yong Palace Master ordered that Luo Feng be placed in the 33rd position. The latest Divine Emperor rankings in Yulan City placed Luo Feng at rank 33. Although the insect nest had retreated before him, Luo Feng had never publicly fought to prove his strength, so his ranking still reflected only his reputation. Many forces expected him to compete for greater benefits in the city, but he remained low profile and showed no interest in profit. Inside an ordinary cave mansion in the inner city, 5 cultivators discussed Luo Feng. They admired how he had forced Elder Sa Luo of the insect nest to pay 1 billion primordial crystals in compensation, believing his strength was at least equal to the insect nest master. They lamented that while experts like Luo Feng could easily earn primordial crystals, they had to risk their lives for small rewards. During their last hunt, all 5 had barely captured prey worth over 9 million primordial crystals and had nearly been killed by a low-level primordial life form. One skinny cultivator revealed that he had not gathered everyone for hunting but for another matter. As he laughed, he silently launched a mental attack against 2 companions. The 2 mid-stage Divine Emperor bloodline cultivators were overwhelmed by chaotic memories, temporarily losing their sense of identity. After only a few breaths, they recovered, while the skinny man secretly communicated that they had successfully obtained 2 new physical bodies. He explained that ordinary cultivators were far inferior in soul techniques because the enchanting heart secret technique was their race's innate ability. Among the 5 cultivators, 2 were actually low-level primordial lifeforms controlling split minds. They privately discussed an upcoming operation ordered by their commander but admitted that the commander only valued powerful members of their race. Those with early-stage Divine Emperor strength were ignored, and even mid-stage members held low status. Only those who reached late-stage Divine Emperor strength attracted real attention. They admitted they had already killed several cultivators, making it increasingly dangerous because Yulan City's defense system constantly monitored everyone. However, they still intended to continue hunting, hoping to evolve their bloodlines through breakthroughs despite the risk of losing avatars. The 2 disguised cultivators left the cave mansion and wandered naturally through Yulan City. visiting shops like ordinary cultivators without revealing anything suspicious. Meanwhile, Luo Feng remained in secluded cultivation, although he was not deliberately pursuing the late-stage Divine Emperor life and death Dao. His understanding continued to deepen. Both the Undying Blood Sea Body and the Biomimetic Destruction Eye advanced to new levels. His Biomimetic Destruction Eye became much more profound as his comprehension of the fusion between life and death improved, greatly increasing the secret technique's power. Using the Biomimetic Destruction Eye, Luo Feng effortlessly observed through the formation surrounding his cave mansion. He clearly perceived the countless secret patterns composing Yulan City's defensive system and observed numerous cultivators throughout the city. He could see through weaker cultivators' bodies, understand their cultivation systems, strength, and physical structures, while their souls remained protected and appeared only as blurry clusters of light. As he continued observing, Luo Feng discovered that his improved eye could now vaguely see cultivators' souls. He noticed two unusual souls that each concealed a worm-like existence. He immediately recognized them as members of the enchanting heartworm species. According to intelligence, only 3 major low-level primordial lifeform races could infiltrate the 9 Rivers Sacred Realms cities: the soul-devouring snake species, the enchanting heartworm species, and the extremely rare Void Wanderer species. The enchanting heartworms specialized in the innate enchanting heart technique, directly controlling anyone with insufficient spiritual will. A single mother worm could produce as many as 19 offspring. Luo Feng quietly left his cave mansion while keeping the 2 controlled cultivators under constant observation. He believed his Biomimetic Destruction Eye surpassed even Yulan City's elaborate defensive system because it directly revealed the souls of infiltrators instead of relying on accumulated traces. The 2 enchanting heartworm-controlled cultivators soon invited 2 female cultivators to their cave mansion under the pretense of sharing fine wine. The women accepted without suspicion because Yulan City was considered safe under its strict rules. Luo Feng originally intended to follow them in hopes of locating additional enchanting heartworm avatars. But he could not allow the innocent women to be killed. After all 4 entered the cave mansion, the formation limited Luo Feng's observation, preventing him from seeing their souls. Without hesitation, he transformed into blood light and forcefully broke through the formation. The official defensive formation immediately detected the intrusion, and Yulan City's defense system activated. Inside the cave mansion, the 2 women were still chatting happily when everyone suddenly sensed the terrifying bloodlight breaking through the formation. The women were shocked that anyone would dare attack inside Yulan City, while the 2 enchanting heartworm cultivators instantly realized they had been exposed. Luo Feng's newly evolved Undying Blood Sea Body swept over them with overwhelming force, even stronger than the Insect Nest Master's Insect Nest Body. It instantly annihilated both enchanting heartworm-controlled cultivators, leaving only their corpses behind. Luo Feng then captured the 2 worm offspring they carried. The female cultivators finally realized they had almost fallen victim to enchanting heartworms. One possessed early-stage Divine Emperor enlightened strength, while the other had mid-stage Divine Emperor bloodline strength, and neither would have been able to resist the worm's innate soul-controlling technique. Luo Feng immediately crushed the 2 offspring into dust, completely erasing their vitality. The worms released agonizing mental screams that had no effect on him. Their destruction greatly strengthened Luo Feng's karmic connection to the true bodies behind them. Yulan City's defense system praised Luo Feng for eliminating 2 infiltrating low-level primordial lifeforms. Ignoring the praise, Luo Feng focused with his Biomimetic Destruction Eye and identified 2 much clearer karmic threads leading toward the true bodies. The threads extended into the distance and branched into several directions. Luo Feng instantly divided into 9 bloodlight incarnations, each following a different branch of the karmic connections to hunt down every remaining target.